BC Children's Hospital Dream Lottery. Win this fabulous South Surrey home or $2.3 million tax-free cash. Tickets, bcchildren.com. Joining us now, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and their offside vertical. It is our pleasure to welcome back Rob, the hockey guy. Rob Williams to Sekerson Price. Rob, how are we doing?
Doing great, gentlemen. How are you?
Yeah, very well. You priming for a 60,000-seat stadium in Surrey?
It's this is the story that's like the gift that keeps on giving. Like when I first heard that there were, the Surrey's mayor is talking about a 60,000-seat stadium, it made absolutely no sense, of course. But it seems like the more that he gets asked about it, the more ludicrous the idea sounds. Like I almost expected him to sort of walk it back and be like, oh no, well, I didn't really mean necessarily 60,000 or this or that. But now it just, every report that you get from him now is like, they're going to have the Canucks play there. They're going to have the Lions, the Whitecaps.
He keeps finding new chips to push into the middle, right? We thought he was all in. He's not, apparently. He's got more chips.
And the story is so ridiculous that we had Dwayne Vinneau, the New Line COO, in studio with Rick Lallisher, incidentally, who came for the ride. And we didn't ask them about it because
it's not real.
It is exactly. Because it is so fantastical. And the point is, Rob, and Blake said it immediately when the story dropped on Wednesday. If he had said 30,000, you, me, and every other media outlet in the city rushes out and covers it as a serious story because you can argue that level of stadium is needed in our community. 60,000, we have one, and you can argue it's already too big and too much, right?
Yeah. And I think you said it right there, covered it as a serious story. Like, we covered it a lot, but not seriously. Yes. We covered can you believe this outrageous thing that the mayor said about bringing a 60,000 seat stadium? 30,000 really, that would get me intrigued. I generally feel that stadiums need to be downtown. Football stadiums, I know there's examples of it working more in the suburbs in the NFL, but generally, as someone who grew up in East Van, we go into the city, we don't go out of the city, right? And there's a snob factor there, right? With people that live in the city are used to staying in the city. People that are in the suburbs are used to coming into the city for other things, right? So generally, I would say people will go into the city to attend sports, but they won't go out to the city, at least not as much.
I don't think we've ever explicitly asked that in a poll question. We probably should.
Well, we effectively did yesterday when we asked, would a Surrey stadium make you attend more Caps or Lions games? And 3-1 said no. We all know that the Caps, or we all believe that the Caps core is more urban, more urbane. Are you amongst the crowd, Rob, that thinks that because the Lions core audience may be a little more suburban, that they would work better in an outdoor facility in Surrey or somewhere in the suburbs?
The only thing I'll reserve judgment for is if they built the perfect stadium out there, right? Then perhaps, but otherwise, my thought is that the further you go away from downtown Vancouver, the less you matter to people in Vancouver and to the surrounding areas of Vancouver, Burnaby, Richmond, and whatnot. The less you matter, probably media-wise, it's more difficult to get to. So I don't. Other than the fact that if they could build the perfect stadium there, otherwise, they are in downtown Vancouver, next to a casino, next to a million different bars, next to transit that goes directly to Surrey. There's always we go through this talk all the time about the BC Lions and why aren't people going to the games? Oh, it's because they're playing on a Friday and people want to come from the island. Honestly, I think almost all of that are weak excuses. They're in a fine location, other than the fact that their stadium is too big. But with that said, it's exciting that tonight it looks like they're tracking to sell out the lower bowl. Be exciting, be fun. They have a P&E promotion going on this week where if you get a ticket to the game, you get into the P&E for free. Do that sort of stuff and the people will come.
Moving right along do I detect a soft spot with you, Williams, for the World Cup of Hockey? I know you covered it in 2016 in Toronto, and this week, if you can just set aside the greed, hypocrisy, and dishonesty for a second, the NHL and their board of governors are thinking of pausing their season in February to do a World Cup of Hockey, Rob. Couldn't possibly pause for the Olympics, but can pause for a tournament where they reap more shekels. What do you think? And what was the reaction from Daily Hive?
You're right. I do have a soft spot for the World Cup of Hockey. It was the first big event I got to cover, when I became a full-time media guy in Toronto. So I have somewhat fond memories of it, but even for someone that was at the event, it wasn't what I hoped it would be. I think that some of the moves they made the last time, having a under 23 team from North America and having the team Europe made it definitely, I think it made it harder to legitimize the tournament that already battles that, because we have the Olympic tournament. People love that. They know it. That doesn't fight legitimacy problems. I think it could be, it has potential, but they just keep getting in their own way. The NHL does. On making it legit, because you can't just have the tournament whenever you feel like it, like every 8 years, every 12 years, 4 years, whatever. It's got to be like a regular interval. You've got to have a qualification tournament. I know Bill Daly was talking about having a qualification tournament for this tournament, but they were talking about the next tournament having a qualification tournament, in 2016 as well. So I think if they really were serious about this and they really wanted to commit to it, and I even think like they almost have to just hand it over to like the IIHF, which they'll never do, but they have to do something to make it, not yeah. But they need to do something where it doesn't just feel like an obvious cash grab, and that's the problem that they have every single time. Even the last, the 2016 tournament had all the big names all went right, but it was missing something. And so if they're not going to be in the Olympics, then maybe commit fully to this tournament, have it in February like they're doing. But yeah, I don't know, especially they're not quite in the Olympics too. So that's always the carrot hanging, in the background as well.
What's more legitimate, the World Cup of Hockey or the World Baseball Classic? I mean, both sports have done a terrible job shepherding these two tournaments.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think, yeah, and that's a tough question to answer. Like, but it's a great parallel where it's just like, you're not.
When are they happening? We never know when they're happening.
Yeah.
We never know who's going.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Matt, you had something?
Well, I was just going to say, because we were looking at the list the other day, guys, and granted, we do not know whether any pitchers are going to join, but have you seen the list of players, position players, who have committed to Team USA? Guys like Mookie Betts and Paul Goldschmidt, who might be the MVP this year in the NL, and Pete Alonso and Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado. Like, there are some heavy hitters literally coming to the World Baseball Classic, the next one for 2023 on Team USA on the position player side. Hitters is always going to be
I bet you the scores are going to be lacrosse scores.
Pitchers are always going to be more difficult.
It's going to be lacrosse scores, 14-11 score lines.
There may well be.
The pitchers are going to be allowed to throw 30 pitches max, right?
Right,
so it's,
right.
Yeah.
Speaking of scoring, Nils Hoglander ought to do some this year for the Vancouver Canucks. If you'll remember, Bruce Boudreau said, hey, if you're going to be a 15-20 goal guy, you better play some defense. If you're going to be a 30-goal guy, then maybe you don't have to play as much defense. Rob, you wrote on the third-year Swedish winger of the Vancouver Canucks this year.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a fascinating case coming into training camp this season. I think if you start penciling in lines right now, Hoglander's on the fourth line, and that's not where people thought he would be at this point in his career after his impressive rookie season, right? He was fourth among Canucks forwards and scoring that, during that the weird COVID year with no fans in the stands. Last season, under Travis Green, he kind of was, playing a similar role to his rookie season. And under Boudreau, it seemed like everybody got the Boudreau bump except Hoglander. Hoglander's ice time was cut from above 14 minutes to above 12 minutes. Of course, he had season-ending surgery, had that groin issue, but he just did not seem right when he was with Boudreau, and I really do wonder what they're going to do, because if you look at their look at their forwards right now, and perhaps they make a trade before that, but Miller, Pettersson, Horvat, Besser, Garland, those are 5 locks to be in the top 6, top 9. Is he going to play ahead of Pearson? Is he going to play ahead of Podkolzin? He definitely wasn't favored over those 2 players under Boudreau. And then, you just gave a whole bunch of money to Ilya Mikheyev. I mean, he's like maybe a fourth line style type of player, but you're not going to give him all that money and then immediately, push him to the fourth line. And Andrei Kuzmenko not making as much money, and we don't know how good he'll be, but they clearly made a bunch of promises to him to lure him to Vancouver. I think they're going to give him every chance to succeed. So that makes me wonder, where does that leave Hoglander?
Preseason game's really big for him, right? Because in preseason games, when you split the team into 2, those early, he'll probably be in the top 6 for the first couple of preseason games. He needs to light up those preseason games for him to grab the eye of Bruce Boudreau, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that has a ton to prove this season. And you think about, it felt like just yesterday he was this 20-year-old rookie turning heads, in the NHL. It's not that long of a journey from 20-year-old impressive rookie to 22-year-old middling forward, right? Like, so that, it's. I called it a bit of I think it's a bit of a make or break year for Hoglander, because I do think if he has another off year, now the shine's really off that star. So, he's obviously still got time, right? Like he's 22. Even if he struggles next year, 22, he could still have time to turn it around. But I just think that the opportunities that will be afforded to him will be considerably different if he doesn't rebound next season.
Marvelous stuff, my friend. What else you got coming up at Offside and the Daily Hive?
Guys, I'm on vacation here for yesterday and today, but so I don't know what's coming up.
You joined us regardless, Rob Williams. Bless you, man.
No, we're in capable hands. We've got Adam Lascaris holding down the fort today. We're going to be looking at. I think we're going to be having something on the BC Lions attendance. Looks like I said before, Laurel Bowl sellout. That's really exciting for a Lions game in August.
Enjoy your vacation, my friend. Thank you for joining us and interrupting it. We'll talk next Friday.
Bye.